Oh, Jess is calling me. Hey.
Just as we're going live.
I think we're live now, so welcome. Just want to make sure this is working. I'm going to refresh my YouTube here. And we are live. Okay.
Yes, that's calling me.
Okay, sorry about that little rough start there. We do have Cathy Wilbanks here. I am Christopher Paul Carey, Director of Publishing at Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated, and we're here with Matt Betts, the author of the new Edgar Rice Burroughs Universe novel, Carson of Venus, The Edge of All Worlds. We have Cathy Wilbanks. She's having some technical difficulties getting online. So hopefully we'll be able to get her on board here. I think we'll be able to get her on board at least in some fashion. So she currently has a nice clear connection, but no sound. So I'm going to let her get set up there. I think she's trying to plug in a microphone. I'm just going to quickly, apologies for this, but I just want to text her and let her know.
That's all right, because I prepared a short musical number that I can do while we're waiting.
Okay. So this is the big grand launch of the Edgar Rice Burroughs Universe. It's a program I've been working on since day one when I came on board at the company in February of 2019. And I couldn't be more excited and more excited to have Matt launch this series with the excellent novel that he wrote. It's already getting rave reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. So check those reviews out. I'll tell you, I'll just kind of begin with a little bit of a explanation of what the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe is and why we're so excited about it. It became apparent Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated had begun publishing novels a few years ago, namely in the Wild Adventures of Edgar Rice Burroughs line. And sorry, I'm getting messages from Cathy about her technical difficulties. It became quickly apparent that there was a lot of the continuity was kind of going in all different directions, and we were getting a lot of feedback from the fans who wanted to be in the follow very closely the original continuity of Edgar Rice Burroughs' works. And so when I came on board, that's the program I began working on. A lot of people don't realize that hardcore ERB fans do, of course, but a lot of people who just read like a Tarzan book or a John Carter book and read these series and novels separately don't realize that Edgar Rice Burroughs himself is the creator of the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe. He came up with this concept long before, Marvel or DC or anything of having this shared universe for his characters. And it was something like no one had really ever done before. There were other authors who did crossovers, like Jules Verne and H. Rider Haggard and Sax Rohmer and people from back in the day. But nobody really created such a comprehensive, cohesive universe, fictional universe, before Edgar Rice Burroughs did. And he had John Carter existing in the same universe as like David Innes of Pellucidar and Carson Napier, of course, from the Venus books, and like the Moon books are connected with the Barsoom books. And he had a character named Jason Gridley, who we'll talk about in a little bit, who crossed over with the four major series, which was Tarzan, John Carter, Pellucidar, and Amtor, the Venus series. So I think we might have Cathy on board soon. So that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring back, just pick up where ERB left off with the universe and continue with new novels. And so we have a series of new novels coming out, a lot of great authors in the program. And to kick it off, we have Matt Betts here, and an interesting angle on this is that these, we are actually getting these stories from other worlds. We're getting messages. Edgar Rice Burroughs himself often appeared in the beginnings of his own novels, and he would he would get the stories from these characters, from these heroes, and then he would relate their story. And so that's the same thing that's happening with us. We've been in communication with these characters, and they're giving us new stories, and it's a really fantastic, exciting thing. So I'm going to add Cathy Wilbanks here to the stream and see if this works. Hey, Cathy, can you hear us?
Hi.
Hey, this works perfectly. Great. Glad you worked it out.
Hi.
Hello.
So just to catch you up, Cathy, I just gave a kind of preamble about what the universe is and why we're so excited about it, and how we're kind of carrying forward with what Edgar Rice Burroughs himself did, and how these stories, we're getting these new stories from other worlds, just like ERB did.
Fantastic.
And let me, now that we have everyone here, let me give more proper introductions. So we have Matt Betts, who's the author of Carson of Venus, The Edge of All Worlds, the first new Edgar Rice Burroughs universe novel. Matt
Love your
is
shirt, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Stand up and show it.
Yeah, I gotta get up there and get the.
There you go.
Yeah. I gotta call my wife off of her stream she's doing at work. She's got the other, the blue shirt on for the new one. So she's representing to everybody she's talking to.
Matt is a fantastic author. He's written a number of other critically acclaimed works. His first novel, I believe, was Odd Man Out. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Which is a really great read. Kind of a Civil War zombie.
Alternate history, a little bit of everything thrown in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun. And I know you have a sequel to that coming out.
Yeah, finally. That came out in 2013, and the next book will come out later this summer. So it's kind of been a wide gap between the two. So
yeah. And he has a number of other novels out. I encourage you to check them out. I think your latest is White Anvil,
right?
Sasquatch novel,
right?
Sasquatch.
Well, my latest one came out today, so
Oh, okay. yeah. No, that's true.
But yeah. White Anvil came out just the end of last year.
Okay, cool. So we're really pleased. Matt and I were talking about this even before I came on board the company. We were talking about him writing an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel, and I was going to make introductions for him. Turns out you had already been introduced when I got on board to me. So
right.
So I brought him on board because I knew he would do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And so we also have with us Cathy Wilbanks, the Vice President of Operations at Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated.
Hello.
You see the nice Burrian paintings behind her on the wall.
How do you do this?
But Cathy's been working at the company for her, she started when she was 17 years old and came on as an
in high school.
High school. So she's got a ton of experience working with Edgar Rice Burroughs, all the properties and everything, and she's been instrumental in launching the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe. I could not have done it without you. There's a lot of logistics that have to go on behind the scenes, and all the planning and everything. And since she's VP of Operations, we work very, very closely together on all of that.
Been a lot of fun.
But yeah, and also you've helped out with a lot of the creative aspects too. So that it's been really, really an amazing journey since they came on more than a year ago.
I really have enjoyed stepping into that world of fantasy so much more than ever before. I worked with Danton Burroughs for years and years until he passed in 2008. And that was more of like just a supportive role. And so having Christopher come on board and being able to expand into the creative world has just been such a fun ride. I've really enjoyed it. So congratulations to Matt and to Christopher for their book being published today. It's a great day.
Yeah, really, really excited about it. And very pleased at the early responses. We sent a number of review copies out, and we're getting a lot of fantastic reviews of the book. So kudos to Matt. Did a fantastic job.
Well, like you said, you've been since day one. This has kind of been the project that you've been one of the projects that you've been working on. I know you've also got the re-releases and things like that. So I mean, it's got to be a pretty big day to have at least part of it off your shoulders, or at least to see it come out,
Yeah, no. I mean, we like, the first book is always the one where, the first thing in a project that you get out of the first product is always the one that you have to, you don't know what's coming at you. There are a lot of moving pieces and you have to figure out how it works. So now that we've gone through the process once, and we've laid down a lot of infrastructure basically to keep, so now the program actually has, it's become real, has a structure behind it, and we have so much lined up. So a lot of people were, I think, very eager to see new books come out when I came on board, and I kept telling people it's going to be a year. It's going to take a year, because you need to lay all the groundwork, and once you get all the groundwork done, then you can put them out at a faster pace, and the process is just a lot easier. So we have a ton of new books coming out over the next several months, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's just start talking to giving Matt some questions here, and anyone in the audience here, if you have any questions, please throw them at us, and we'll try our best to answer them for you.
And hello to Australia. I see Ralph is watching us from Sydney.
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
Jess and Rick and Ralph. So hello, everyone. I think there's like 18 people watching, so that's great.
Well, like you said, you had sort of talked to me a little bit before you even officially came on about where you would like to see this go eventually, and I think for a while you were up in the air about how this whole thing should start, what character should start it, and I know we talked a little bit about several different characters launching this whole series, and you finally decided Carson should be the person to do it.
Yeah, like there are a couple obvious choices, which are Tarzan and John Carter. We've done a number of Tarzan books already in the Wild Adventures line, and and I love Tarzan. Our next book actually coming out is a Tarzan novel, so can't wait for that one. But I thought, then there's John Carter, which is an amazing property, one of probably my favorite Burroughs series. So I'm very, very anxious to get some John Carter out there. But Carson, I felt we wanted to begin the universe fresh, right? And so I felt like it might be a good opportunity to bring in a character who is like a Sword and Planet type character in the vein of John Carter, but who might not have had the exposure that John Carter had. And so I thought that would sort of give a little bit of an original stamp to the launch of the universe. I know it's a little bit of a gamble on that, because you want to go with your strongest brands often, in marketing. But I felt strongly that Carson would be a good person good character to lead the way into the universe, and to bring in a lot of new characters and bring the pieces of the puzzle together. So that's I know that we were discussing it. Matt and I were discussing it, and I know Matt was even going back and reading a lot of the John Carter books, because at the time we weren't sure what series we would do. So,
well, I mean, you're right. It would make sense maybe to start with Tarzan, but I mean, he does bring not just a lot of clout, but a lot of baggage with him. I mean, look at how many books Burroughs wrote, and people might be more familiar with movies that really aren't canon, and so it might have served to confuse things a little more than as the start.
That's true. I mean, as far as the movie Tarzans, there's been a lot of variants from the canon.
Sure.
Most of them are not even close to the canon, even if they're good, enjoyable movies.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things about this series. This is canon. We're considering this as true as Edgar Rice Burroughs' books, and and I have a whole creative team working on this with me. I've got besides Matt, I've got Winscott Eckert, who's writing the next book in the series. I have Gary Gravel, fantastic author. He's going to be writing the novel After Winds. And then I have Mike Wolfer, who I met through American Mythology when I came on board at the company. We had an early talk, really a couple weeks after I came on board. I called him up and we talked, and we just hit it off. And turned out we were just on the total same page about the creativity in the canon and everything. And so now, so I'm bringing Mike also into the prose fiction discussions too, and so we'll talk about that a little bit later too. But I do see some questions coming through here.
Real quick before we jump onto that, something you said about starting with Carson. For me, it was lucky in some ways because Carson, we only had those 5 books or 4.5 books to draw from, and this kind of leads into the question as well, as opposed to Tarzan that had 30 books probably with I forget how many Burroughs wrote and how many other people have written in there, but it was really a good startup for anybody that might want to jump in there and find out more about Carson. They don't have that much to go back to and catch up. They're already kind of on the scene, and they really, from the way we wrote it and set everything up, they don't have to do that much research. They can drop right in and then say, well, I want to find out more about that, and go back to another book. So that was something that was really good for me, at least, is that I could read those books over and over and get those points and know where I was going to go, rather than having to really have to go through a lot of material to figure out what I wanted to work with. So for me, it was a good thing. And
that's a very, very good point about the accessibility of the series. It does make it more accessible to start with Carson. And there are some Burroughs readers who just haven't gotten around to reading the Carson books. They've read all the Tarzan.
That was one point I was going to make too. Is that a lot of people, when they hear Edgar Rice Burroughs, they always think of Tarzan or John Carter. Right. So I thought it was really brilliant for both of you to decide to move forward with Carson, because it's not only it's a rich property with so many opportunities, but it also opens up people their experience and their knowledge of Edgar Rice Burroughs, to let them know what a brilliant author he was and how he did a lot of different things with his career. And I think it's a nice way to reintroduce him to the general public and to the world, and develop some new fans.
Yeah, and Matt and I worked very closely together on this book to make sure that all the references are in there, so that the background is in there, so that a new reader picking up the book actually has the understanding of what's going on, even if they've never met these characters before. They can just jump right in and get the story right from the get-go.
So that was, as I was saying, that leads to Rick's question there. How long did it take to write Edge of All Worlds? How much of that was research? And did you go back and read all the prior novels? Yeah, that was before we even started coming up with the outline. I read all the novels, and then I reread them, and I put them on my phone, the books on my phone, and had whatever the service is that reads them, the electronic voice that reads them, and I had it read it back to me, just so I could listen to. Right away, we had talked about it being in first person, definitely, since that's how all the other Carson novels were written. And then just to get his cadence, is a little bit of differences between how he wrote one first person book as opposed to another point of view book, and they definitely have their own sort of rhythm to them. So I did go back and read them and reread them, and the idea for the plot came to me pretty quickly. And one of the first things that they required of me, and I know both Cathy and Christopher went over my outline with a fine-tooth comb, but they required a very detailed outline to make sure I was staying in the lines, and I was treating all these characters the way they should be treated. But I couldn't have done that without reading those over and over. They're fairly short books, so I could do that several times before we even got to the outlining stage. But it took, how long did it take to write it? Actually, it didn't take that long. Once we had that detailed outline, it was really a terrific roadmap. Once we knew exactly where we wanted to go, and very few bumps once I started writing it. So it was really, the actual writing itself was probably 3 or 4 months. It wasn't too long, but I think the outlining took a couple months.
Yeah, you didn't have a whole lot of time, because we wanted to launch this. I sort of pushed it as far as the company was willing to let me push it out.
Right.
I really wanted to have that, like I said, get the infrastructure, everything set up in time. So you didn't really have a whole lot of time to write it. And I was impressed you got it in before the deadline.
I got it a few days early, not too long, but I got it
Yeah,
early.
no, but I don't. Yeah, as a longtime editor, you don't encounter that very often.
But yeah, it was almost all for the early part of it was almost all research. It was, like I said, reading the books over and over, and then I kind of went online and did more research to see, how other people kind of viewed Carson, the Carson fans out there, and then I did read some of the other. I did read, like Christopher had said, I had read some of the John Carter stuff, so I went back and looked through those again, just kind of getting a feel for Burroughs' writing. But just his language and things like that, just to make sure I was in the right place when I was writing it myself. But once I started writing, I really didn't look back too much. It was pretty much like Christopher said. It was a go. It was moving on. So
cool. Just get a quick answer. Jess has a quick question here. Can we get a sampling of the audiobook, something that can be shared across social media? Jess, if you look in the actual details, there's like a little show more section of this video. You'll see a whole bunch of links in there. One of them is to the Audible edition, and if you go to that page, there actually is an audio link, an audio sample that you can listen to.
And I think you told me it has suitably grand music with it, and the guy is terrific at the sort of his pulp voice, and his voices are terrific.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They have a nice little musical segment that'll be at the beginning of all the Edgar Rice Burroughs complete collection on audio. It's just really evocative, nice music. It kind of transitions into this almost sweeping Superman-like music. It's really appropriate for the subject matter and really fun. John McClane, who did the narration, is just amazing. I'm so impressed with the production work that Oasis Audio did in putting this together. So that's available now on Amazon and audible.com. Ralph, I'll get to your question in a bit. I think I have a segment where I want to kind of talk about what we're going to be doing in the future you're asking about John Carter on Jupiter. But I want to concentrate on the new book first, I think. So Matt, what was it like when you came to visit our offices last year, and you were pitching an idea to continue one of ERB's Westerns,
right,
as a book series, and then an unexpected visitor showed up. What was that like?
Well, you never expect for a specter or someone else to show up out of the blue from nowhere at an interview, but apparently it happens, or at least it happens in your offices. So it was exciting. It was interesting to meet, a little and trepidatious to meet Carson there and sort of in the flesh, but it was good to get to know him and to find out his stories, actually, if you count the Eye of Amtor that we talked about. So we've got a couple of things that we learned from him, and he's a very interesting person with I'm sure plenty more stories to tell, but he's interesting to talk to.
Yes, it was surprising to me back before I started working for the company, I was writing a authorized Carson of Venus comic, Carson of Venus, The Flames Beyond, and lo and behold, I discovered that Carson Napier was real. And if you go to the last issue of that, the third issue of that miniseries, you'll see a nice little illustration. It's right in the office there, and it's an illustration of Jim Solis, our president of the company, and Scott Tracy Griffin and Cathy Wilbanks. They're standing sitting with Carson of Napier, who's appeared to them and is giving the story. So this all goes back to Edgar Rice Burroughs. If you read the forwards to his books, he always met his characters and transmitted the stories
one way or another. Yeah,
really fun stuff. Jess is asking, what kind of delivery times can we expect for the books versus Kindle's instant delivery? So the books are already appearing in people's mailboxes. I was really surprised. I was talking with Cathy earlier today that there are people on the East Coast who actually already have their copies in their hands. We're on the West Coast here in California.
Well, Christopher, did you see that Rick from Australia said he already received his, which is absolutely amazing. I was going to say, unbelievable. I sent out a small little sample of books Saturday evening. I just was able to get them there at the last minute, and I'm absolutely shocked that it made it to Australia already. Unbelievable.
Wow. I think I must say something about what's going on right now with the kind of world crisis in the postal system. You know, maybe some of these parcels, just like there aren't as many being shipped right now. You know, so I don't know what's going on, but
I don't know if it has to do with any, you know, with the same things or not. But I was looking on Amazon for their shipping, and if you ordered today, their estimated delivery was like May 16th. I don't know.
What?
Yeah, I was shocked. And that was for the paperback. So
Wow.
I don't know what's affecting that, but I'm sure anything shipped from California, if it can get to Australia in 3 days, I would think it would be able to get.
Just another reason to get it from ER Burroughs.
That's right. You know.
Right there.
Yeah, she'll just drop it in the mailbox and you'll have it.
There you go. I'm handling it. Actually, it's we have another hugely important employee, Blake Mann, who is handling most of the hard labor on this, and I'm just overseeing it and helping him out when I can. But kudos to him. He is working so hard, just tirelessly, hours and hours putting these together. So I do have to give him a big pat on the back.
Yep, and it's funny because, you know, I had to have the books because the office, you know, we're not supposed to be all working together in the office. You know, I have the books shipped to Cathy's house. Blake picks them up from Cathy's house. He takes them to his place and then packs them up. And so we're all trying to do this legit and keep the social distancing and obey all the orders and things like that.
That's right.
So it's, but, you know, we feel it's important to get these books out in this time of stress and uncertainty. I think it's really important to get these books out because this is an inspiring book, you know, and Edgar Rice Burroughs is an inspiring author. You know, and he wrote during a lot of rough times in the period, you know, in historical periods. He wrote through World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, you know, and I think people took a lot of solace and were inspired by the characters and stories that he wrote about. And I think that, you know, it's interesting that we're launching this series in this sort of world crisis, but it's in some ways kind of fitting.
And that's something I liked about a couple of the reviews that I've seen is that they thought it was really good escapism right now, that it's, you know, it's off in another world. It's something that, you know, can just be pure fantasy and it gives people a little break from it, which I thought was very kind of people to put into reviews for it. So,
yeah. Absolutely.
And I think it's awesome that we have every platform available. We haven't ever done that before in the company's history. So having it to ebook, having audiobook, having softcover, paperback, you know, every single format available. So no matter who you are or how you access your fantasy or your excitement in life, and it gives you access.
Right. Yep, absolutely. I'm a big believer on coming out bold with all the different formats and things like that, because, you know, honestly, it's common wisdom in the publishing industry that you have these different formats, and these formats are actually different markets. There's one person likes the Kindle, always buy it on the Kindle. One person likes to have the hardcovers. One person likes to have the collector's edition, you know. And so that's, I should mention the collector's edition. So we have a special kind of rewards that you get if you buy them from EdgarRiceBurroughs.com, ERBurroughs.com, our web store. So we have it in 3 different editions. In print editions, we have the paperback edition, 1995, and then we have a just regular hardcover edition, and then we have the collector's edition. Now, all the editions come with a bonus ERB Universe trading card. So we have regardless of whatever edition you order, you get the Victory Harbin trading card. Victory is the new ERB heroine. I can't get the camera right here. And we'll talk a little bit about her, because I want to talk to Matt about her too, because she actually is in his book as well as in the bonus story that I wrote at the back of the novel. So we have the regular hardcover edition, but we also have what we're calling the collector's edition. And you can see it says on the back here, collector's edition. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very fancy. We're actually printing on the boards with the logo here, and it's got like a nice doodad on the back. It says collector's edition. So unlike the regular hardcover, which is just the plain blue boards, you get this fancy version, and it comes with a signed book plate signed by Matt Betts and myself, and it's got Edgar Rice Burroughs has signed it. Sort of, quote marks around that. But and then also, if you get the collector's edition, you get a special Carson of Venus trading card, and you only get that with the collector's edition. So
the fancy edition.
The fancy edition. So, and that's the fancy edition is only available from EdgarRiceBurroughs.com. You can't get it out anywhere else, unless we're ever allowed to go to conventions again. Then you'll be able to buy it right from our table. But so it's exciting stuff.
And you talked about people getting the book the way they want to get it. I mean, like right now with people kind of stuck at home, if they don't want to wait on that Amazon, they can get the PD or the e-copy of it or the Audible copy of it.
Yeah.
And it's immediate. You know, they don't have to worry about. I saw someone looked it up. Dale looked it up, and it says that Amazon is quoting May 16th to 24th for delivery of the book.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to wait that longer, unless you pre-ordered, you know, you got that instant gratification. You can listen to it, you can read it, or you can order the copy if you're going to wait for it down the line. But that's really cool.
Some people are ordering multiple formats. Like say you want to read it on your Kindle, that's great. You get it right away instantly. But there's something exciting and fun about just actually reading a book and cracking it open and smelling it and the whole experience. So you can get the Kindle and you can get the paperback, and the paperback will be coming very shortly, as you can tell. We already got somebody who got it from Australia. Oh shoot. Where did my computer? There it goes.
You're still there.
So,
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, you got to order it from ERB Burroughs because you get all these goodies too. It's a bonus, win-win.
Yeah, I hadn't realized about it. Dale Russell writes Amazon quotes May 16th to May 24th on the hardcover. So incentive to buy it direct from us. You know, that helps the program too, because that shows your support for the program. It's always better to buy right from the publisher because, you know, we get a higher percentage out of that, and it helps keep the books profitable and us able to keep putting more books out. But get it where it's best for you. So that also the Kindle, wherever you get it, it helps. So whatever works best for you. So
for me, I mean, it hasn't just been. I mean, it's been really exciting to get to write in Burroughs' worlds and to work with everybody at ERB. That has been terrific. But this is the first time for me as an author that I've had a hardback book out and I've had an audiobook out. So to see you guys releasing it all at once is really exciting for me, and to be able to you know, have my friends buy a hardback or whatever and have that on their shelf. But it's just, you know, exciting for me as an author.
Let's see. Dale has a question. I'm going to get to Dale's question, but I just want to talk a little bit more about the book itself. So we have this new character in the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe. Her name is Victory Harbin, and she has been communicating with us as well through time and space. And so we're getting this very interesting story for her. She's a very interesting character. She derives from the original. She's not in ERB's original works, but she derives from them. Her family is from them. So her mother is Gretchen von Harbin, who was in a book called Tarzan and the Tarzan Twins with Jabal Jah. It was one of ERB's juvenile Tarzan novels. And her mother was kind of kidnapped by the frightful men of Opar, and they wanted to make her the their new high priestess, because at that time Law of Opar had kicked them out of Opar in the events in one of the other Tarzan novels, for the adult Tarzan novels. And so that's her mother, which is a very interesting mother to have, because she spent a lot of time with the inhabitants of Opar, and probably that must have influenced her. And so there's a story there about her mother that hasn't been written. You'll get bits of it, but she she ends up in Pellucidar. Gretchen von Harben does. You'll find out, and then she gets married to a Pellucidarian named Nadok, and they have a child together who's Victory Harben. So, and the Gretchen was called Gretchen von Harben. That was her name, had a the von in it, and her father was Karl von Harben, who was in the original Tarzan books. He was a missionary in Africa, and then her brother Eric von Harben was one of the stars of Tarzan and the Lost Empire, and he goes and finds a lost Roman civilization. And later in Tarzan at the Earth's Core, Eric von Harben shows up again, and turns out Tarzan and Eric von Harben went on a lost adventure, adventure that ERB never recorded, that he said would fill a novel's worth, if it were ever told. So that's an interesting project that might get done someday. But he and Tarzan discovered this ultra lightweight material called that they called Harbonite, which was used to form the structure of the vacuum airship, the O-220, which went to Pellucidar, that carried Tarzan and other characters to Pellucidar. And so what you find out is that Gretchen von Harben went on an airship to Pellucidar, and that's how she got down there. And Victory later goes to the outer world as a young woman, and studies theoretical physics, advanced theoretical physics. So she's a very interesting character, and she mysteriously shows up in your novel, Matt. So I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about that sort of thread that goes through. It's what we're calling the Swords of Eternity super arc. It's the interconnecting threads of these first 4 Edgar Rice Burroughs Universe novels.
Right. Well, we didn't really mention this up front, but unfortunately, their story of how she and Jason do kind of catch up to this story was first told in the comics. So it started to be told in the comics, and then we had everything happen that those comics had to go on hold for a little while. But then you wrote the story, the short story in the back of that's included with this about how Jason and Victory end up sort of catching on to the story. But for me, it was a lot of fun to introduce this. I mean, that was the first sort of new character that we talked about that, like you said, has roots in Burroughs, but is brand new. So it was interesting to see how we were going to move her into this, and how she was going to move into subsequent books after mine. And we kind of discussed it, how so that everybody was on the same page about how this is all going to happen, or what it's going to look like when it happens. But she just sort of, for Carson, he's having a few issues and not feeling well, and she sort of appears to him, and he's not even sure that she's there, because he had just seen something else that he assumed was an apparition of his friend Jason Gridley. So to have her sort of explain to him where she's from, and have him sort of figure it out or not figure it out right away, was a challenge, and to see where she was going to and how she was going to influence that story was fun, and certainly took some doing to weave her into the plot and to the ideas that I was doing for the rest of the story. So I really love to be able to help you create her into the story, and help each other to figure out what she looked like and how she acted, and how she was going to react to her situations. So, and she sort of gives a little bit of the history of what's happening to her through my book. But it's something that's going to sort of unravel as we go, I think. So
yeah, it was an interesting challenge, because we wanted these characters to be in there. We wanted Matt's book to stand on its own. We want all of these books to stand on their own, and yet we want to have interconnecting threads. So I worked really hard with my team, and my team worked really hard with me to make sure everything lined up. Matt, Wynn Eckert, Gary Gravel, and Mike Wolfer and I had, conference calls, video chats. We have like an ongoing chat where we talk about things, just to keep all the different threads together, and so that we remain focused and everything works together like clockwork. You mentioned the comics.
I need to say too that
go
I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I think you hit the nail on the head when she's so sassy and smart and fun, and I really feel that the whole team did a fantastic job with just conveying this energetic, wonderful, beautiful girl. And I think you did a great job with it, and I know from personal experience what it's like.
No, we sort of used your daughter as a test audience too.
Yes, you did. You did.
It was very valuable. She gave some really good insight, and she and you gave some really good ideas about Victory's character and little even parts of what's coming up in the plot. Some very important threads coming in there. So it was fun. It's really, really fun. And she sort of brings a new view, a new outlook to the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe. She's coming in, she's younger. So the story, I should say, kicks off in 1950, which was the year that Edgar Rice Burroughs passed. And it's sort of a passing of the torch from ERB to the new ERB universe. That's why that's why it's set in that year. And so she's a younger character. She's 18 years old in 1950. And she has a little bit of a knowledge of Edgar Rice Burroughs in these books that, and that they're real. Obviously, she knows that Pellucidar is real, so she knows the Pellucidar series was based on fact. But she's not like a hardcore Edgar Rice Burroughs fan, so she doesn't know all these different worlds. So when she encounters them, they're new to her, and she's, like I said, younger than the other characters, and she has a different sort of upbringing than the other characters. And she's very, very smart. Like I said, she has a degree in advanced theoretical physics, and so she starts looking at like sort of the I won't go too far in this, but she starts looking at the very strange way that physics and stuff works in the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe. Because you have things like the ninth ray, or the different planetary rays, and just the idea of these interconnected worlds, because you look up at Mars, we look up at Mars, and that's where the Viking lander landed. The Viking lander didn't, to our knowledge, discover any green Martians up there with 4 arms, but yet we know, Victory is going to learn that Barsoom exists, just as Pellucidar exists. And Pellucidar, how could there be a hollow world? That doesn't make any sense, and Victory actually questions that at the beginning of my story in the book, Pellucidar, Dark of the Sun, the bonus novelette at the end of the book. And so she's sort of gonna peel back the layers of the onion and try to come to a new understanding of what's going on. How could it be that Edgar Rice Burroughs existed in our world and met these characters, and these characters went off to these other worlds that like Mars and Venus, and yet they're not Mars and Venus. So she's going to be one of the keys in figuring out what's going on there, and you'll see that unfold as the series goes on. But you did mention the comics. I wanted to mention that we have an official tie-in comic. It's the prequel to Matt's book called Eye of Amtor. It's plotted by Matt, and Mike Wolfer from American Mythology wrote the script. And it's a really, really amazing comic. The quality of the American Mythology comics has just been getting better and better. It's really gorgeous artwork, and coloring and story, and it really, really is evocative of Edgar Rice Burroughs, his original stuff. And we took that same approach. Matt and I both have introductions to this comic, talking about how he met Carson Napier and got the story from him, and how I got in communication via the Gridley wave with Jason Gridley and got Jason and Victory's story. And so, here's Victory Harbin, that you can see her, and Jason Gridley here in this story. And they're going to encounter some very familiar, creepy characters from Edgar Rice Burroughs, the original Edgar Rice Burroughs books. And it has an alternate cover here, the variant cover with Victory Harbin and Jason Gridley on the cover, and it's called Eye of Amtor, Carson of Venus, Eye of Amtor. And you can order that now from AmericanMythology.net. It's also on Comixology and Amazon as a digital edition. So you can get that, and that is actually my piece in that is telling the same story that you get in prose. You get an expanded prose version in Matt's novel because we felt it is sort of the opening of the super arc proper, even though it's at the end of Matt's book, so we felt like it was essential that the reader gets that story, that storyline, the whole thing. So that's why we did that. Just checking the comments here.
Jess asked the question that you were talking
Yeah.
about beforehand.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
my favorite character in Edge of All Worlds? You know, I of course I loved working with Burroughs' original characters like Carson and Dewari and Nalte and Aroshan. But creating my own, you know, I really enjoyed creating the different characters and visiting the different you know, types of sort of alien creatures he meets, and there were so many of them that I wanted to include everybody, but there was still plenty more that we can meet some other time. But you know, I like Vought, the sort of cloud person. She's one of the cloud people that are in there. But my favorite, and it seems to be a favorite of other people's, was Bremak, who's the Angan or Klangen, depending on where you're, you know. But I really enjoyed him. I wanted to have fun with Bremak, and really not have him be comic relief, but have him be somebody that, you know, is important to the story and sort of reveals something about other characters. So that was probably my favorite character to write. Even though I didn't want to be comic relief, he did still have some fun stuff in there. But yeah, I really enjoyed all of them. They were fun to see how they fit into this puzzle, and you know, you can't pick just one, I guess.
Yeah. I think, you know, Bremak and the character Dunny, is that
Dunny?
how
Yeah.
pronouncing
Right.
it? Are pretty standout characters in the book, and like, you know, Bremak, while you kind of love to hate him, some interesting character development in the series, you know, in the story as it goes on. So I think readers are really going to enjoy that, and have enjoyed it. The people who read the advanced copies.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed and like I said, people have pointed out, and I really enjoyed people telling me they liked that character, so that was nice.
Cool. So I can put these. Let's see if I can put these up on it in here. Okay, good.
There you go.
Cover up, Cathy.
You all got smaller.
Christopher, Matt, and Cathy, thank you so much for revitalizing ERB, not only with this series, but with the authorized library. Also, what will be the printing schedule moving forward? I'll sort of combine this with Dale Russell's question here about, can you talk about plans for after the 4-book arc, which I haven't really talked about the 4-book arc. So I'll start with that. So as far as the ERB Universe series, we have the next book coming out after Matt's should come out this summer. We're aiming for July. We'll see if we can hit that with everything going on in the world, but I think we can. And that's going to be Tarzan Battle for Pellucidar. And so that's Tarzan going back to the Earth's core. He went there in Tarzan at the Earth's Core by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and he's going to go back. And he's going to, this was set. It's interesting because it's set before the beginning of the super arc proper, but it is still very much tied into the super arc. You'll find out. It's sort of a flashback to World War II, so in the early 1940s, and you'll get to see a young Victory Harbin. I believe she's 11 years old in the story, in some key scenes of what actually is setting up the super arc. Some of this stuff can't be told chronologically. It's better to have these little flashbacks and things like that. And Wynn really has done a good job at that. It's very, very intriguing. It just makes you want to find out more about the characters and find out more like what the heck is going on with this mysterious adventure that Jason Gridley and Victory Harbin have been put on. So that book is coming out in July, and Wynn is knocking it out of the park.
And he says he's in favor of that. He says he likes the idea of July.
So yeah, we're working hard to make that happen. But Wynn is has an amazing knowledge of pulp, pulp characters, pulp heroes, crossovers in general, all this kind of stuff, and Edgar Rice Burroughs specifically. And he's really worked in a lot of good stuff from the original canon, stuff you wouldn't expect. You know, it's like, I'm tempted to spoil some of it, but I'm going to hold back.
The first book just came out. You ready to spoil the second one? Come on.
Can't help myself. And then, so then after that, this fall/winter, we're going to be putting out a book called the third book in the super arc, the Swords of Eternity super arc, called John Carter of Mars, Gods of the Forgotten. So instead of beginning with John Carter, we're sort of ramping up to John Carter. So John Carter becomes sort of one of the climax, you know, you start getting toward the climax in the series, which is going to be really fun. And that's being written by an author named Gary Gravel. He's an amazing author, very, very talented, and very, very knowledgeable about Edgar Rice Burroughs and Barsoom's specifically in particular. He has a very evocative Edgar Rice Burroughs type style of writing. When he initially, I initially queried him, he sent me a sample of a Barsoom novel that he had begun and pitched to the company back before we had a publishing program back in like 2011 or so. And so it didn't go forward, but I asked him if he could send that to me, and it was just amazing. It reminded me a lot of my approach when I wrote my novel, Swords Against the Moon Men in the Wild Adventures line. I have a copy here, so plug my novel. Because I very much tried to write in that Edgar Rice Burroughs style and to capture the voice, because you have to, and like as Matt had to do too, because when ERB is writing in the first person, like he does with Carson and John Carter and in the Moon series, you're writing the same character, so you have to pick up and write in that style. Carson is a little bit more of a modern character because he was written later in ERB's career. So you'll notice even in reading ERB that it reads a lot in more of a modern style. It's not quite as archaic. The language isn't quite as archaic and intricate, but it's still just as compelling, you know. So that was another reason like Carson was a good one to start out with, I think, because he just has that a little bit more of a modern voice. So that's John Carter of Mars, Gods of the Forgotten is coming out this fall/winter. Gary's read portions of the manuscript over the phone to me, and it just blows me away. He's just so good. So really looking forward to that. And then after that book, next year, I'm not going to give the month because I haven't written the book yet, but I'm writing a book. I'm writing the Victory Harbin book, Victory Harbin Fires of Halos, and that's going to be the culmination of the super arc. There may be other super arc, maybe other Swords of Eternity novels or stories that come out in the future, because it is such a grand concept. So there are going to be a lot of ramifications, I think, after you get to the end of book 4. But it is really going to ramp up in that book to this big epic climax. I'm really looking forward to writing that. I was plotting it over the weekend, writing my formal outline, and I'm so excited. And Victory's gonna, she's gonna go visit some familiar places and familiar characters to ERB readers, and then she's gonna go to places we've never seen before, or that were hinted at but never explored by ERB. So I'm so excited to write this. I haven't been this excited about writing a novel for a long time.
And the plan is with each of those novels to you don't have to explain the who or the what, but each of those is also going to have a short story as well from another author.
I'll sort of break that. I haven't really broken that news, but each of these stories will have a bonus novelette in them.
We can cut that part out.
No, this is good. No, and Mike Wolfer announced this on a live stream that he did, but Mike Wolfer is going to be writing the bonus story in Win Scott Eckert's novel, Tarzan Battle for Pellucidar. And it's going to be featuring Victory Harbin, because we're moving the super arc forward hardcore kind of in the novelettes. So definitely the first 3 are going to have Victory Harbin visiting various ERB worlds, because the setup is, if you read my story at the end, is that Victory and Jason Gridley Separately, they're apart from one another. They've both been hurled across the ERB universe, and so they're popping into these different worlds through a very strange phenomena that they're trying to figure out what's going on. So in Mike Wolfer's story, it's going to be Victory in Kazpak, the land that time forgot. And he sent me his synopsis of the story, which he's writing now, and he's quite far along on it. I should be getting it any day now from him. And it's really, really fun, a really fun story, and really more than fun. It's just because it does advance the super arc. It's just so exciting, and grand and epic and intriguing. You'll see a lot of, like, when you get to the climax of that story, you'll see this very intriguing thing, and you'll be like, what is going on? And you're just going to want to go to the next story and figure out what's going on. So yeah, and then we'll have another one in Gary Gravel's book. I have an idea of who the author is going to be, and what where Victory's going to go in that story, but I'm not going to spoil that yet. Let me just scroll through the comments here and see if there's any.
While you're doing that, Cathy, you, as much as you've been with the company, it must be a very strange time that, obviously not being able to go in the office together, but not going to conferences and not going to trade shows, and not how odd is that to not have people going out and actually spreading the word for someone in your position?
It is really difficult. It's been very challenging to try to create a new normal.
Right.
And we're working every day to try to reach out to the fans. And I thank Christopher and you, Matt, for keeping our voice on social media and just spreading the passion. I do want to say that I'm so impressed with the creative team that Christopher, you've put together with Matt and Wynn and Gary. I feel like your vision is not only answering questions that ERB put in place years and years ago, but also expanding it and modernizing it to a whole new audience. And I feel like we are just on the precipice of a whole new ERB revolution. And I'm just so excited to see this change. I feel like it's just been years and years and way overdue for us to have a creative team and to be expanding it in a way that's actually true to ERB, that's canonized. And I'm just so impressed and excited to see all the changes. So it's just been so exciting to come to work. Even though we're going through this really odd time in the world, I feel like we are all interconnected because we have such a passion for ERB, and I just am happy to see where it goes from here.
Absolutely. And, like I said before earlier, we couldn't have done this without your help too, because you know how everything works, you know how the company works, you've had all the industry contacts to help us get these properties out there and everything. And I've learned a ton over the past year working with you. But we're hoping to get the ERB universe out into more media, different media than just the print books, and we already are. So the Eye of Amtor is an official Edgar Rice Burroughs universe canon comic book. It's just as valid as the novels in the short stories, and we are going to be doing more of that. So American Mythology has a new series coming out that I'm not going to spoil what it is, but that we're going to be working on to make sure it's canon in Edgar Rice Burroughs universe. It's going to be very, very exciting. I should mention that while sort of the comic industry is facing this whole big crisis now, and as their distribution network is kind of shut down for the time being, American Mythology is continuing to work every day on these comic books, and they're going to be doing a Kickstarter, an Edgar Rice Burroughs Kickstarter, and they're going to have Eye of Amtor #2 in it, so they can get that produced and out to the fans. And they're going to have, I believe, a Monster Man comic and another Pellucidar comic, one called Pellucidar Fearless, coming out. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the American Mythology social media so you can find out when that Kickstarter is going to happen.
I have to say, I have to agree with Savage Chuck, who says it's a great time to be an ERB fan.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really exciting. And I've enjoyed working so much with the team, with everybody, whether it's the team at ERB Inc. or my creative team of authors. And the artists too. I should mention the artists. I mean, look at this this cover art by Chris Pueller.
Right.
You can actually, it's wraparound too. This is not a good way to see it, but we actually have prints of that available on iCanvas.com. So really, really gorgeous, high quality prints. It's been really great. So as far, I wanted to kind of continue you asked about the publishing program in general. We're right now working on the next set of Edgar Rice Burroughs authorized library books, working really hard on that. And so we're hoping to get that out soon. I won't give the dates on that, but we're working full steam. Like the next 2 weeks, like that's all I'm going to be working on. And in my spare time, I'm going to be continuing to edit Wynn's novel. But
and you're going to be outlining your novel too, right?
and outlining my novel on the weekends. So,
there's no sleep for you, Christopher.
No.
Unfortunately, I can do everything of my job from home except for the licensing and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But all the publishing stuff, pretty much I can do. Let's see here. Somebody, Ross Dorset asked this important question: are you going to be adding female authors? Asking for my wife. Yes, we will be. The author that I'm looking at a woman to write the Victory Harbin story that's going to go into Gary Gravel's novel. So that's probably going to happen there. And then, of course, we're looking at authors for novels and been in discussions with various authors. And, we sort of teased at Pulp Fest that Heidi Ruby Miller, that we're looking forward to working with her on something. So we'll see what comes down the line. So we'll let you know when we can make a formal announcement. But yes, absolutely, we're going to have female authors on board. And then Rick says, would love to see more cameos from other stories, especially lesser known ones like The Mucker #13 and The Girl from Hollywood. I've been doing a lot of research into that, and because my brain is always working, but I'm pulling all these I have all my old books out here, and Monster Men, Mad King, like even Outlaw of Torin and I'm a Barbarian we can go to because Victory, that's the first edition published by Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated, so we're carrying on a really proud tradition. That came out in 1967. But because Victory and Jason Gridley are kind of lost in time and space, they're actually popping around in different time periods too. So, maybe Victory is going to show up in ancient Rome, so there's a lot of opportunity there for such cameos, as you say, but so we have the authorized library books coming out. I should mention too, I'm just sort of break some news. It sort of slipped out because it came out during the announcement about the audiobooks from Oasis Audio, that they're going to be publishing an audiobook of Mayhars of Pellucidar by John Eric Holmes. So we're actually going to be reprinting this book, and that'll be actually in the kind of the classic ERB Universe line. And John Eric Holmes also wrote an unpublished Pellucidar novel called Red Axe of Pellucidar that has only circulated in fan circles with just like kind of carbon copy manuscripts or whatever, Xerox manuscripts floating around unauthorized. But we're gonna be putting out that book as an authorized book, the first time ever. So we're really excited about that. So those will be coming out. That's sort of breaking news here on this podcast or videocast. So that's we've got that to look forward to. Of course, we've got more Edgar Rice Burroughs Universe novels coming down the pipes that haven't been announced. I'm kind of actively looking into what some of the next novels are going to be, and I'd like to do some really exciting ones and some things that have never really been done before, some characters and things like that. And of furthermore, we're still continuing the Wild Adventures of Edgar Rice Burroughs series, which kind of can go into the realm of alternate universe. The authors can be a lot more creative in that line, and still do really amazing stories in that. Will Murray recently came out with Tarzan, Conqueror of Mars. I don't know if you have a copy there, Cathy, but to hold up, but I don't have one on hand.
No.
So, but
Find it.
that just came out and is getting rave reviews, and that's in the Wild Adventures of Edgar Rice Burroughs line. So we have more Wild Adventures novels coming up too. So I am a very busy man. So just gonna scan down here.
Don't forget to mention Joe Jesco.
Yes, yeah. So Joe, please, go follow his social media, because he's posting all sorts of cool teasers of the artwork that he's producing for. He's doing all 80+ covers for the Edgar Rice Burroughs Authorized Library, and gorgeous frontispieces to the books too. And if you haven't seen the Authorized Library books, they're really amazing packages. They have, oh good, you have some there. We're packing them full of bonus content. I wonder if you could maybe open up and show some of the bonus content, because we never really have shown it online before. But we're putting a lot of rare scans from our archives and things like that. So there's like a table of contents of the archival contents, and Cathy wrote the introduction there to the section, because she has long been the archivist for Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated. But we're reproducing a lot of, like the pulp covers and the first edition covers. But we're also going and publishing a lot of the correspondence that has never been seen before, even images from manuscripts. But these are letters from, Edgar Rice Burroughs, between Edgar Rice Burroughs himself and his editors when he was first writing the stories. There's a lot of insight in them that it's going to give a lot of fodder for scholars to discuss for decades, really, because a lot of this has never come out. It was studied by scholars like, Erwin Porges, who did the biography Tarzan, Edgar Rice Burroughs, the man who created Tarzan, but a lot of it has never come out and never seen the light of day. We did a really fun thing in the Tarzan of the Apes one, which is we had letters from when the original pulp magazine came out of fans writing to Edgar Rice Burroughs. They sent them originally to the pulp magazine, and the editor forwarded them to our company and to Edgar Rice Burroughs. And we still have the archives. Janet, Cathy's mom, who works for the company, found those, and it's like, look at these. Are these something that might be interesting? And we were just blown away by them. They're so fun to read, the excitement. And when the people get to the cliffhanger at the end of Tarzan of the Apes, they go ape on, because they just wanted to. They couldn't stand it. They're like, we need to know what happens. You need to write a sequel. And it's really fun to see what kind of like how it was when these books first came out.
I'm really excited about the Authorized Library, because a lot of people, a lot of fans have come up to us during conventions and asked us repeatedly, where are the ERB books? We want books written by the master himself. So I'm really excited to see these finally available in print, and with all the bonus archival materials. It's a win-win. I mean, it's just the quality is great and it's fun. Yeah,
and then that amazing cover art. Joe is doing the, as he himself says, the best work of his career. Man, he has a teaser up right now for the Tarzan Lord of the Jungle one, and with a knight charging at Tarzan and a castle and a drawbridge, and it's just amazing stuff.
Fantastic.
Love to see it come in. But let's see here. We need subscription services. Hear that, Cathy?
I agree with that.
We've discussed that. It was a little too complicated for our launch, but it's something we're always looking at. We're always looking at ways that we can do better and fulfill the needs for the fan community out there.
I think when you announced it, or when we were talking about it at Pulp Fest on a panel, somebody was asking before anything was coming out, is there a subscription? Can we get, so I don't miss any of them? So people have been asking for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's something that I wanted to do. We just didn't, with everything going on. And like I said, it took a good year to get the infrastructure in place to get this series forward. It was one detail we couldn't get worked out in time for the launch. But we're definitely examining that as a possibility going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But all right, we're past the hour mark. We're about an hour and 10 minutes into this. Any other last questions that anyone has out there in the audience, or anything that you Matt or Cathy would like to address? Anything I forgot to talk about?
I think we hit just about everything.
You did a good job. Yep.
We have. I should also say, in the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe, we've canonized Tarzan and the Valley of Gold, which we published. Our company published last August. So it is part of the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe series. So we're considering that canon. Fritz Leiber, the award-winning fantasy author, went to great lengths to integrate this novel with the original canon, well beyond being just like a novelization of the movie Tarzan in the Valley of Gold, starring Mike Henry, right? And then we've also brought in Philip A. Farmer's Tarzan in the Dark Heart of Time. And you can get all these books from our website, or wherever, the publisher, Meteor House, put this one out, meteorhousepress.com. And do we want to tease that we have a sale coming up? We have a sale coming up, so stay tuned. Everybody sign up for the official newsletter. If you go to the main page of erburroughs.com, you'll see a place that you can put your email in to sign up for exciting new updates. And you just put your email in there and click the button, and then you'll get notified when all the new releases come out. And that's a way that you can make sure you don't miss one of the universe books when it comes out. So
I just want to end by saying thank you to the fans, and thank you for all of the ERB passionate readers spreading the word, continuing this wonderful program, and to Christopher and Matt, because without you all, you make our lives wonderful, and we really, really do appreciate all of you. So I'm going to exit and go finish filling boxes. So everyone around the world can get their books and start reading right away. They're wonderful. Thank you, Christopher and Matt, and everyone else.
Thank you for joining us. So I know you're busy there.
Yep, I'm gonna exit and go to the post office.
All right, we'll see you later.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So Dale has one question here before we sign off here. As far as the new releases, will you leapfrog between series? I think you're talking about the authorized library there. The plan for the authorized library is we're going to go straight through the Tarzan books first. Then we'll go into the Barsoom books, the John Carter books. And then we'll see where we go from there. But because Joe Juska, who's doing the cover art, likes to really get into the series as he's painting the covers for these. He wants to do them series by series, so that's how we're going to be putting them out. All right, if there are no further questions, I think we'll sign off here. So congratulations, Matt, on the release of your first novel and all the awesome reviews that are coming in. We'll try to have some more of these. Just a teaser here. We'll try to have more of these live streams in the future, especially while we're here in quarantine mode. And I would like to have one here with my whole creative team for the ERB Universe. So I want to have Matt back again, and then when Scott Eckert and Gary Grable and Mike Wolf are on board too. So that would be a really fun, intense discussion about ERB canon that I think the fans would really enjoy.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Thank you all for joining us here, and we're going to sign off now. Thanks. And go read the book. It's really, really fun. So
thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. Take care.